All right, friends, what we're going to do is we are going to build out this Luke API Walker. At least we're going to start it. We're going to see how far we can get. And then if we don't finish it up today, then we can finish it up tomorrow. That'll be just fine during office hour. So making sure that this is recorded so that way we are able to, read or re-watch it or see it if there's something we want to do. So, okay. So it says you've been given a task as a front-end developer to create a front-end app to navigate the Star Wars API. And we've used this API before, something that we are familiar with. And so we need to build something like this. This isn't really a wireframe, but you can sort of think about it like that. Typically what will happen is if you have like a UI UX person, or you have a product manager or product designer, they're going to come and say, hey, here's what we want. So can you make it look like this? And so what we're going to do is we're going to try our best to make it actually look like that as well. So we'll use a couple things. I'll probably use Bootstrap to make it kind of look similar. So we'll try to match it, try to do that, try to keep it as if it was something that we, like an actual job itself. And so I see a couple things just right off the bat, right? I've got a couple pieces of information. I've got the search for, and then it's drop down menu. So I think it tells you exactly what we'll need to do. But we'll search for people. I think it's people, planets, and something else. And then an ID number, and then it's search, which that just tells me that this is a form, right? Where I've got a drop down, I've got another input value, and then I've got a button to submit it. And what's going to happen is once we click this, we are going to call that API, or we're going to pull up a component for that API, or pull up a component, sorry. And that component's going to call our API, retrieve that information, and then it's going to show that information on our form, right? And so if we click people ID1, what it's going to do is it's going to go call the API, grab the information for the people within the Star Wars API that's got an ID of 1, or the person, and then we're going to show that information. Same thing with planets. So let's go ahead and build this. I think it is just people and planets. So let's go ahead and start building this. We can follow this kind of accordingly, and then we will kind of see how it goes. So I have created this Luke Walker Vite project. So we're good there. I have run npm install. So I need to install Axios, right? Because I'm going to need to make some sort of request. So I'm going to say npm install or Axios. Perfect. Okay. So if I look at my actual project, this is not it. This is our class. Give me a second. Let me pull that up. Okay, so here's our actual project. We've already got our node modules. We already have our package JSON. And in this, we should see that we have Axios. We do. We're chilling there. Great. We've already got this information. We can actually expand on this maybe today and tomorrow. We'll build it out to make it a little bit nicer, to kind of do a complete front end version where we use like React Router DOM and actually, click planets. And if I want to go to planets, there's a form for planets, that kind of thing. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. All we have is Axios in this, and that is A-OK. Okay. One thing I'm going to do, and just looking at it, I see that it's got some rounded sort of edges. It's got some, nice color here. And there's this great tool. I'm sure you guys have heard of it, but it's called Bootstrap. And so there's quite a few different things we can do. There is Bootstrap for React with a components base. That's not really what that's kind of overkill for what we're doing. So I'm just going to go to normal Bootstrap. And Bootstrap, if you've never used it, is a great tool for us to be able to style very quickly, make make the appearance of our application, of our HTML file look really, really nice with very minimal effort. So I love that. So we want to do that. What we're going to do is we're just going to grab this guy. I'm not doing any sort of JavaScript, so we can just grab this link. And the way that Bootstrap works is you can sort of think about it like somebody already built this really big CSS file that already has all these classes and all these certain things. And so all we have to do is call the class, And once we call the class, there's styling associated with it. So somebody's already done all the hard work. We just have to attach that class. And then when Bootstrap reads it, it makes it look really, really nice. So it's a really great tool for that. There's some nuancy things that we can jump into Bootstrap. Maybe I'll do like, if you guys are interested or somebody messages or wants that, I can actually jump in and kind of make it look even nicer. But looks like Bootstrap files, new project. Ooh, so it looks like we can deal with that with Vite. But right now we're going to go the old school way. Link is just going to be our CSS file. Script is if we want to do JavaScript stuff, we don't need it to. So I'm just going to grab this link. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to come actually to this index.html. And within my index.html, I can still put this link here. So put it within my head. And then now I have access to Bootstrap, which will be really, really nice. And we'll, as we build this out, we'll kind of make it look a little bit different. But this is the only time really you're going to ever mess with the index.html for right now. So that's the only thing you'll ever touch it for. Okay. So in doing this, let's grab some of this information. Let's get rid of all this junk. Let's start with a clean slate. All the way down to my fragment. Start with a clean slate. Okay. So let's just make sure that we're up and running and let's see what we want to do. And I'm going to try to make it look as normal as possible. I'm actually going to create an H1. That's going to say Luke APIWalker. Okay. I think that's technically one word. And then let's just actually run this. npm run dev. Perfect. 73. So we have Luke APIWalker. Perfect. We love that. Now what we want to do is we want to actually start making it look the way that it's supposed to, right? So, or let's get the functionality. This is what I would say, especially with your exam. Get the functionality working, and then if you want to go back and make it look pretty, then do that. But let's get the functionality working. So I know that I need a form, and looks like I have a label. I have two labels of search for and ID, and I've got a button here. So what I want to do is I'm going to say dot row. Now what this dot is doing is this is a way that I can attach a class. This is a shortcut to attach a class to any sort of element I want. If I just say dot and then a class name, that's going to by default attach it to a div. But I could say h2 dot row, and that's going to attach the class of row to an h2 element. So yeah. So if I say dot row, that's a div, and it's automatically going to give me a div with a class name, because it's JSX, it already knows, with a class name of row. Perfect. What row is going to do is it's going to make sure each one of my elements, so my labels, my input, everything's all in one row and one line, or else it's going to be block scoped and it's going to go line by line. So that's what we are doing here. Now I want to do a form. So I'm going to say form dot, and then let's see what. Let's go to the Bootstrap documentation. They have really great docs. And let's go to forms, because I can't remember exactly what they are. I think it's form control. What's nice about it is you can get a visualization of what it's going to look like, and then they'll give you the code right under it. And so you can see that there's a couple different things. MB means for margin bottom, and then I believe it goes to 5. And so if you want a little bit of spacing in between your elements, you can say MB, and that'll put margin at the bottom of this div. Of 5, it's going to give it to 3. If you did MT, it's margin top, so you can associate there. But I'm looking here, I don't see, so I think it just form will be fine. Yeah, so I can just I don't need a dot, I can just put form. Perfect. I'm going to have an on submit, but we're going to handle that in a bit. I am going to have a div that is going to, for each element, or for each sort of pair. So if I were to, again, go back up, here I've got this div that's got a label, input, and then div, label input. So let's just do a div. I'm gonna have a label dot, I believe it's form control or form label. Let's go read the documentation, form label, and then the inputs form control. Yep. So form label. And again, this is just me using Bootstrap. So I'm going to call this search. And then I've got an input dot form control. Control. Perfect. Great. And then I have another so you have another div. Let's do the same thing. And then I'm going to call this ID. That's fine. And then I'm going to have a button dot btn primary. Now what this does, I'm attaching multiple classes to this button element. One is the button class, so it's going to make it rounded, make it look nice. And then btn primary gives it like a bluish color. We can change it. There's like danger, all that stuff. So if I look at this API Walker, it just says search. So let's make it say search. And let's see what happens. So I don't need this count. Cool. Great. Let's go see what's happened so far, what our code looks like. Okay. So they're not in the same area or not in the same section. So what I believe I can do is I can let's get the functionality again. Let's get the functionality working and then we'll make sure. I don't want this as a label and input, do I? I want this as a select. So let's go back. I still need a label. Then I want this to be as a select, where this is going to be content maybe. And then I'm going to have option X2 or star 2. That's going to give me 2 of the options. One is going to say planet. And then the next is going to be people. I'm actually going to create a third one. That's just going to say search or please select option. Perfect. We'll just put this as like a null. Okay, let's go back and check. Great, so I've got please select an option, people planet. Now this looks gross. So I'm gonna actually come here to input group. You can keep going and seeing they've got multiple inputs, buttons, drop downs. So let's see. I don't want this action portion. Yeah, so this is what I want. So something like this. So let's see, this is form select. So let's go ahead and come here and add in class name of form select. Cool. So see if that changed that. And it did. Looks nice. Please select an option. Okay, so it's really nice. And again, all we had to do was use a little bit of Bootstrap. I am going to give each one of these a class name. And I'm going to say margin bottom 3. And so now there's a little bit of spacing between them. Cool. Okay, so it looks great. So we have a little bit, we have our form. We can get this side to side if we want. We'll worry about that here in a bit. But what we want is we want to be able to search for either a planet or a person, some ID number, and then we want to be able to search. And once we do that, it goes and does that. So what's the first thing I need to do to kind of handle this information? Anybody have an idea? Oh. Yeah, exactly, Johnny. I need to store inputs using an on change. So that's exactly what I need to do. I already have use state up here. So let's go ahead and create. I'm going to call this, I think I called it content, set content. Yep. And then ID, set ID. Perfect. I think that's fine. So what we can do is on my actual select and my input or my ID, I can go to this input. I can say on change, which we've done a million times before. I have an event and I want to set ID because this is the second one, set ID. And then I want to set it to my event.target.value. Cool. Now I need to do the same thing with my select. I've got an on change. That I'm going to have an event. It's going to be set content. And then I'm going to use my e.target.value. So now my state is going to be updated every single time, right? Anytime I add or change, it's going to be updated. That's where it's really important that I have this planet and people here with my value, because whenever I have this target value, especially for the select, it has to call from there. So let's just please keep that in mind. Cool. This input, if it's just type text, it'll automatically catch it. You don't have to put a value there, but options, you do have to put a value. Okay. I also need something that whenever I submit or I select, right, I need to be able to handle that information. So I need a handle submit function. So I'm going to say const handle submit. It takes in an event, right? And the first thing, what's the first thing I have to do when I'm dealing with a form in React? I don't want to go under because it's going to tell me. Yeah, exactly. I'm going to prevent default. Prevent default. Perfect. Great. Now what I need to do is, well, first off, let's close my curly boy. And then what I need to do is I actually need to kind of let's stall there. Something I realized is everything's being done in the app, right? And if I am seeing, okay, I'm going to have multiple things. I need my form and I want to navigate to another component. I should probably abstract this from my app and let's just put it all in maybe what we call a form component. So I'm going to come here. Let me say components. I should have done that at the beginning, but alas, here we are. It's not a big switch. I'm going to say form.jsx RAFCE. Perfect. And then now what I'm just going to do is I'm going to come here. I'm going to grab all of this. Over here. Might as well just grab everything to there. Yep. And let's go to my form. So everything right here, let's just do that. Okay, perfect. Everything is a-okay there. There's a couple things I need to bring in. I need to bring in uState, right? So I definitely need to bring in uState. I also need, if I want to use navigate, that is a React Router DOM thing. So I actually need to go my server. Let's ls. We have access to our node modules, so I can npm I React Router DOM. Great. So now what I can do is when I'm in my form, I can go and get my import. I want to say navigate. From React Router DOM. Cool. Now, when I say const navigate equals use navigate, so I believe it's use navigate. Navigate. Perfect. Cool. Great. So now I have this information. I am bringing in navigate or use navigate. I'm calling it navigate. Instantiating this. So now what I can do is I can navigate to my content / ID. Right? I can navigate to my content / ID. This is what we did yesterday. We're just taking that information. We already have our base route. We're going to go build this in our app here in a second. But I can already, like, I know, okay, I'm going to grab this information. This is what I'm going to want to do. And this is dynamic, right? It doesn't matter if I'm going to go to people, then it's going to go to people. If I'm going to go to planets, it's going to go to planets. So we're a-okay there. No big deal. Cool. So now let's get rid of all this. Get rid of this information. So we don't need this anymore. We're in our app now. And cool. We're starting over brand new. Great. What I want to do is I'm going to actually go to my main JSX and I'm going to I like to put browser router here. And so now anything I do, if I want to use like a nav or anything within my app, I can do that. I'm going to do that right here, be a-okay. So I need to say routes and then route, right? Perfect. But I need to bring those in. So I can say import routes in route from React Router DOM. Let's make sure that browser router was brought in. It was. Okay, great. And I can start dealing with my routes here. Here I've got my path. And that's going to be equal to whatever my path's going to be. Oops. So, and then I've got a element, and this is self-closing. I'm not sure why that did that. Perfect. Trying to decide on how I want to do this. Yeah, that's fine. No, I think I want to bring that in over here. I want that on both sides. Okay. Cool. So I'm going to have some sort of path, right? Where I am, anytime I am going to planets, I want to go to my planet one. Anytime I'm going to people, I'm going to my people one. But I'm going to need to make those components. So let's go ahead and make those people.jsx. And then I'm going to create a REFCE. Let's just build that real fast. Ooh, great. And then let's come here again and do a planets. The planet.jsx. REFCE. Great. Cool. So now what I can say is whenever my path is some sort of information, right? Whenever my path is /planet/ and then I'm going to say ID, but I want this to be dynamic because I don't know what ID. It's always going to be planet. If I'm going to my planet path or my planet component, it's always going to be planet, or I think it's planets. It's always going to be that, but I need to go to my ID, right? This is what's going to be dynamic. So let's go make sure in my form, when I say content, this needs to not be content. I think it's planets. Cool. Let's hover over and see. Fragment with only one child is redundant. Done. That's fine. Doesn't matter. Well, what that means is we can just delete the fragment and the div can be the parent. Okay. Okay. Let's go kind of see where we're at still. We're here. So I can't be reached because I killed my server. Awesome. We're still here. I can say in my app, we go back to my app. I'm always going to want to bring in, or I want to at the beginning, I want to bring in my form. Perfect. And so what I need to import is form from components. Then I'm also going to want to bring in for my element, it's going to be, this one is going to be planet. And this other one is going to be my element of people. But I haven't brought those in yet. So I need to say import people from components people. And then I need to say import planet from that. Okay, so now I have access to these. We don't have anything with them. They're not doing anything, but I have access to those at the moment. Okay, so I have my routes. I have my route set up. This one, I need to say /people /:ID. Okay, perfect. Now we're good to go. We're getting an error though. Looks like I'm bringing in form and React Router DOM. So I'm not sure why that auto did that. Let's get rid of that. Perfect. But I now get my form. And one. And that takes us here. Planet people, let's see what's happening. Inspect. Console. No matches of content equals planets. What I think is happening is on my form, I think I messed that up. Because I called this planets, which should then navigate to planets /some ID number. Just come here and say /planets /some ID number. To spell it incorrectly. PLANETS planet. Oh. No. Grab this information. It should grab this. Let's see. Whenever I Let's go check my tools. I've got my component, I got my form. Form has a state of null. If I come here and I say planet, it says planets. If I say 3 or 2, it says 2. So then what it should do is handle submit. I don't have a handle submit. On submit. Handle submit. That was my issue. Okay. So let's say, yeah, we'll just do planet. That's fine. And so if I refresh, if I say planet 2, React router, I get another error, but another error is better than that same error. Functions are not valid as a React child. This may happen when you return a component instead of a component for render. Let's planet turn app.jsx. Let's go to good old platform. Did I mess up my routing? Element. Oh, yep, I did. Right. I passed in. I didn't put my caret in my. This is me passing in a value of planet, but it's not passing in the actual or saying go to this component of planet. Okay. So if we refresh, great. We now get planet down here. It's awesome. That rules. That tells me that our routing is working. And I go to people. Okay, great. So now everything is set up and prepared for that. So we can, and that's where, like, honestly, that's where this whole idea of using this state, because I was like, why is my state? What is it updating? Am I having an error here? Or sorry, using this React developer tools, because I can go look and say, nope, my state is operating how I think, right? I am getting state. I didn't mess up with my values, or it's able to collect that. So where it kind of allows me to eliminate, okay, that could be the issue, and allows me to go somewhere else and say, okay, what else could it be? And so we just realized, hey, wait, no, it was actually, I put in this import planet. I put that component in there. That's what it's saying is, if a component can't be a child, but I can call it like this and say, hey, I want you to go grab and retrieve that. So that was the issue. Are there any questions so far to what we've done? I kind of just breeze through it like I would develop it, and obviously be talking and trying to explain it. But are there any questions about what I've done so far? Does this make sense? Makes sense. Okay. Well, what I think we'll do, because we've got we've only got like 12 minutes left, is I think we'll stop here. And then tomorrow for office hour, we'll pick up and we'll build out our planet and our people components and grab that information. And then we can go kind of alter it, make it look a certain way if we want to, or build it out in any sort of way. Put some fun, like, if else stuff. If it's the wrong sort of, somebody's not there, it doesn't work. If we get some sort of error, then we can handle it that way. Kind of prevent if people mess up, then we can do that. So one thing I would probably do is change this from type text to type number. That's just like one thing to make sure that, they can't type in anything wrong. I can only put numbers. That's kind of what I would do. What happens if it goes null? Nothing. Routes. So there's not a route that says null. That makes sense. So yeah, we're gonna stop the recording there. And then we will pick up tomorrow with continuing this project.